Good evening, Jay. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope you had a very wonderful and meaningful holiday season, and your first days of 2022 bode well for an amazing year ahead. Welcome back to Leaders in Action. Tonight, we start Season 3. Our topic, Gearing Up for 2022.
Happy New Year, Mr. IB, and Happy New Year to all our friends of Leaders in Action. Bago ang lahat, Mr. IB, kamusta ang iyong holiday celebration?
Well, very relaxing and kahit papano with family and relatives.
Yeah, that's good, no? Talagang thankful tayo because dahil sa more relaxed alert level natin nung December, somehow we were able to celebrate, no? Mas festive yung celebration natin ng ating holidays, no? This 2021 as compared nung ating 2020.
Yeah, correct.
Pero syempre, Mr. IB, na-miss natin ang ating mga kapatid, kapamilya, kaibigan, no, sa Leaders in Action during our 1-month break. But I am certain that they also had a very wonderful and memorable time with their families and friends during that Christmas break natin. At we made sure na hindi nyo kami makakalimutan, no, because we brought to you the beautiful and inspiring messages, no, Christmas and New Year greetings, Mr. IB, ng ating mga CDOs, CAOs, heads of sales ng iba't ibang life insurance companies. Nagbigay din ng mensahe yung ating mga presidente ng iba't ibang organization, ng PLIA, GAMA at ng LUAP. And of course, despite his very busy schedule, napaunlakan pa rin tayo, no, sa kanyang mensahe sa industriya ng ating very dear Insurance Commissioner, Attorney Dennis Funa. Yeah. So sa inyong lahat, maraming salamat po ulit, no, sa mga mensahe na binigay nyo sa ating mga leaders during the holiday break natin. So tonight, we are very excited to join you in our new season. Sabi nga ni Mr. IB, welcome na to our Season 3. But before we move forward, we would like again to express our appreciation to all our leaders, our past guests who partnered with us for the past 2 seasons, and to all our industry colleagues and friends who have been extending their support to us since episode or Season 1 natin, Mr. IB.
Our purpose remains as strong as ever. And of course, that is to contribute to the success of many more agency leaders in the industry. Kaya naman, we look forward to the continuing support of everyone in our industry and to the growing number of leaders joining us in Leaders in Action. Alam mo, Jay, a new year always creates a great sense of expectations for a much better outcome. It moves people to want and to hope for something bigger than usual.
Yes, kaya naman a lot of planning usually takes place either before or at the start of the new year, no? And hindi natin pwedeng kalimutan, no, yung paggawa natin ng ating yearly New Year's resolution, which is a sign that we desire to improve or level up, no? But alam naman natin that just having the desire to improve is not enough to achieve what we want, no? It's never a guarantee, no, Mr. IB, na makukuha natin yung gusto natin just because we want it. And that is precisely the reason why we decided to invite someone who can help us gear up for 2022 to share with us some insights and tools on how we can best put our plans into action to realize, no, the results that we have envisioned. Dahil sabi nga nila, tayo daw po mga Pilipino ay napakagaling nating mag-planning, napakagaling nating magplano. Kaya lang, kadalasan ay sumasabi tayo sa execution.
Medyo tama ka dyan, Jay. See, leaders of teams put a lot of effort in setting very clear goals, choosing the right priorities, and focusing on a few strategies to meet those goals. Kaya lang, at times, they forget to do a punch list to make sure they have all of the key elements to execute. In short, ready na ba talaga sila lumipad? Minsan kasi, tumunog na ang bell, but teams are unable to start strong, notwithstanding the intent to go fast early. Para bang may kulang? Or when the momentum is initially built successfully, hindi naman masustain. There seems to be something lacking.
Tama dyan, Mr. IB. And one of the things leaders must avoid, especially at the start of the year, ay yung tinatawag nating early frustration. Especially nowadays that being frustrated, no, napakadaling ma-frustrate because nga of the ongoing pandemic natin. But we always have to be mindful that as leaders, it is our responsibility to be the source of much of the hope and excitement of our people, especially at the start of the year. Hence, we are very happy that tonight we are being joined by someone from Development Dimension International or DDI. Mr. Ivy, for the information of our audience, DDI is a global leadership consulting firm which for the past 50 years have been helping organizations develop exemplary leaders. And tonight we will be joined by one of their lady executives who will share with us key points that leaders have to be aware as they gear for the new year. So para hindi lang sila mag-start ng strong, but they can also sustain what they have started. Our guest has a track record, no, has track record and expertise in succession management and in creating sustainable and transformational business strategies anchored on people. So, wag na nating patagalin. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome ang ating buena mano for Season 3 and for 2022, the Business Development and Head of Marketing ng DDI. Friends, let us welcome Miss Ida Amigo. Hi, Ida.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Good evening, Jay. Good evening, Ivy. Happy New Year.
Welcome to Leaders in Action.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be part of this very interesting activity that you have.
Again, thank you and Happy New Year to you and to your family.
Salamat.
Yeah, for joining us on the very first episode for the year.
Buena mano nga talaga.
And I'm sure it's going to be a very good Benamano. But before we start our conversation, may I request you to share a few things about DDI and your important role in the organization?
Well, actually, like what Jay mentioned earlier, DDI has been by the side of companies and also leaders in helping that we not only survive, but also thrive in the changes that the environment brings to us. And we're very fortunate na from years ago that we were closely affiliated with the local company. We were now connected, siguro mga more than 10 years na po. Directly owned na by DDI in our headquarters. And since that time on, maswerte kami na we were able to gain access to all of the tools and upskilling na kailangan ng mga consultants namin. So we're able to help our client partners more purposefully, and sabihin na lang natin na mas nakakatulong kami sa pag-advance sa mga pangangailangan nila. Having been with DDI recognize na siguro sa mga nakakakilala sa amin, mas matunog siguro na we're a training or leadership development provider. O di kaya targeted selection for interviewing. Sa mga iba naman, we help assess mga key talents or mga key executives sa mga critical na posisyon na kailangan punan dahil may mga vacancies or sa mga promotions. But then, pag pagdikit-dikitin natin lahat yan, dyan tinatawag yung how can we actually prepare companies to be ready to face the challenges of the future. Hence yung succession na tinatawag. Na kapos na kapos, hindi lang sa ibang mundo, ibang parts of the world, but lalo na dito sa ASEAN and even in the Philippines. Maraming mga kumpanya na alam nating yung mga leaders nagre-retire na, o di kaya nitong pandemya, maraming nag-isip ng mga ibang gustong gawin sa buhay, kaya umalis na sa mga connected organizations nila. So more so, mas kinakailangan magpasok ng mga bagong talents or mag-promote ng mga bagong talents from the lower levels of the organization. So yun, yan ang DDI. And tinanong sa akin ni Ivy kung ano ang role ko. I think more than leading the sales or business development and marketing team, I love working with my client partners on those areas. And naswertehan din naman ako nabigyan ng pagkakataon to lead the business for transformation also, since DDI has been going through a transformation before even the pandemic. And I wouldn't say it's painless. It comes with a lot of challenges. Pero sabi na nga nila, it's a test of character and also will help me grow into a better person. And it has been through the years and still learning until now.
Thank you. Thank you, Ida. So talagang tamang-tama that you are our guest tonight because your dealings with various companies and their senior leaders and your exposure to the many challenges they face afford you with so wide and valuable perspective that will be very helpful in our discussion tonight. So, tatanungin na kita, last year, being a COVID year, was again a tough one. But it taught a lot of lessons. So what are a few major lessons of 2021 that leaders can actually learn from? And what must leaders do that they do not lose sight of these lessons that they've learned?
Actually, yan yung isa sa pinaka-interesting questions, no? Ano yung mga natutunan natin? Kasi hindi naman tayo makaka-move forward if we don't learn to look at the journey that we've actually embarked in and take away lessons from those experiences. And siguro pwede kong i-summarize yan sa 3 punto. Ano yung pinakalaganap na learnings na narinig ko from people I've spoken with, leaders and executives. Siguro sama ko na rin yung sarili kong naging experience as a leader in my own way. Before the pandemic, maraming usap-usapin tungkol sa big data. Having the right information or data analytics. More and more with a lot of uncertainty. We're looking for tools to provide a better understanding of what's going on. And ano ba yung mga hinaharap natin or haharapin pa natin in the future. So one of the key learnings would be making sure we get our hands on data and information at the shortest possible time. And of course, the more accurate, the better for everyone. So that's number 1. Number 2 is really the nature of leadership is really changing. Kung ano yung nakasanayan nating capabilities ng leaders noon to make them successful, hindi yan necessarily yung leadership capabilities that will help us get to be where we want to go. And we need leaders, actually leadership, not just leaders, now more than ever, who know how to build strong, trusting, and inclusive relationships with their teams. I know we've heard a lot about diversity and inclusion. But then it's easier said than done. So having those practices in place, no matter how small the effort is, mas makakatulong yon sa paglago ng negosyo. And of course, having the right people behind to make those happen. And the third and most important point is developing the next gen leaders. Lalo na, well, hindi na nga siya madali noon because we know that the workforce now is comprised of several generations compared to previous years.
Yeah.
Noon,
Generation yata eh.
exactly. Actually, 5 na. Oo. Naalala ko before the pandemic, millennials, managing millennials pa lang pinag-uusapan.
Yes.
Ngayon, hindi na lang titigil dun eh. So as turnover continues to increase, no, meaning mas maraming umaalis sa mga current employments nila, lumilipat sa ibang career track. We have to make sure that leaders are ready to face these kinds of pressure points. So we all know na sa mga nakaraang 2 taon, much more than the previous years, yung stress na naramdaman or naranasan ng mga leaders, talagang sukdulan.
Yeah.
Higit pa siguro sa mga naranasan ng mga team members nila. Hence, masyadong matunog last year and even previous to that, yung burnout. How can actually people still sustain the level of energy and momentum amidst the fact na nauubos na rin sila, higit pa sa kakayanan nila. So it's critical also for companies to make sure that they support leaders as they hurdle over these challenges, or else meron tayong risk dyan na even those reliables that we have, pwedeng mawala rin. And where will that put companies at? Kung sakasakaling mawala na tong mga talents na kinakailangan natin to drive our business. So having the mindfulness of these critical indicators, kung ano yung mga kailangan natin, I think is number 1, to make sure na hindi tayo maligaw, and that we can actually find ways to making things different for 2022.
Thank you. Those are wonderful key lessons, no? Pero ang problema kasi kapag parang sa classroom, pag narinig sa maestra, paglabas ng classroom, nakalimutan. So what one thing do you think that leaders must keep in mind so that these lessons will be with them as they face the new year?
Well, actually, sa dinami-dami nga ng kailangan natin isipin as leaders, no? Hindi lang business but also people. Siguro from my own personal experience, I would say na being authentic to who you are, and how you can actually engage people around you would be fundamental. Kasi may mga bagay na kailangan natin ipilit yung mga sarili natin from doing, but then hindi yun sustainable. Going back to the fundamental, the authenticity of any person, hindi lang leaders yan eh. Yan talaga yung magiging sukatan kung gaano ka layo yung mararating natin. Not only energy-wise, building the trust, and even deepening our relationships. So I go back to being transparent and being authentic.
Thank you. Well said. Jay?
Yeah. Ida, in your line of work where you see a lot and articles on change, which industries do you think were badly affected talagang yung impact ng change sa kanila ay matindi? And how did you see these industries coping up with this change?
Okay, sige. Since mahilig talaga kami, ang DDI sa research and studies, pauunlakan ko ang grupo natin to actually see some data na pinili ko from our global leadership forecast. That was actually, we were very fortunate na sinimulan namin to before the pandemic. Tapos tinuloy pa to over the early periods of the pandemic, and even yung early periods of meron tayong semblance of new normal. So meron tayong representation dyan ng iba't ibang cycles ng environment natin. So pakita ko lang.
That would be good, Ida, no? Kasi talagang very relevant do. Okay.
Okay. So,
explain mo naman sa amin yan, Ida, no?
Oh, masakit sa ulo, diba? Pinag-usapan nga natin kanina data. So, ito siguro yung magandang practice or panimula natin para sa pangkalahatan on how we can help, how we can leverage on data in preparing for what's in store for the future. siguro we can zoom in on aspects that may be more helpful, no, for the majority of our audience, specific to your industry. And I think kung titingnan natin dyan, this actually takes a look at ano yung rate of change na hinaharap ng bawat industriya, which is the Future Change Index. And then yung pangalawa, which is the industry capability to react to change, talks about ano yung kakayanan naman nung industriya na yan amidst the changes that they're going to be facing with. And then the last column naman shows us ano yung kakayanan ng mga leaders in these industries in terms of managing change. So iba't ibang facets, no? So if we take a look at siguro financial service, unahin na natin ang healthcare. Total, over the pandemic, alam natin na sila ang talagang nayanig ang mundo. Paano nila haharapin ang making sure they make available protecting the nation or the whole world from COVID. So makikita natin dito na ang Future Change Index and yung capability of the healthcare industry to react to change is very low or low at that. And not even half, far from half of their leaders are able to manage the change kasi talagang nagulantang eh. And we know na hindi ka naman basta-basta lang pwedeng maglabas ng produkto sa market, risking the safety and health of people because that would mean loss of lives. In as much as we want to make sure that we help those who are inflicted by COVID. So talagang meron niyang months, even more than a year to really perfect the antidote to cure, even minimize the implications of the disease that you were faced with. And as we continue to embark, we don't know if the strain has already subsided or nag-evolve pa rin continuously. So healthcare is still going to be quite challenged in terms of how they're going to be addressing the changes. So kumbaga hindi na natin ilalagay yan sa high kasi naranasan nila yung sukdulan sa nakaraang 2 taon.
Alright.
There. And then I think ang pinakamalapit sa puso natin, of course, insurance. And idikit na rin natin dyan ng financial service, no?
Yeah.
Unahin natin yung industry capability to react to change. At least may good news naman tayong pwedeng pag-usapan.
Maganda.
Diba? High. Parehong high itong dalawang industriya because we all know that for both financial services and insurance companies, and also from my line of work, I've collaborated with a good number of companies here in the Philippines, and we all know, even in the region and also globally, na karamihan ng mga kumpanya na sa industriyang ito, before pa ng pandemya, nagsimula na ang mga transformation initiatives. They started with digitization, may iba digitalization, and those who are more advanced or early adopters already went to the extreme of digital transformation. So what do these mean? Most of which put in effort in terms of strengthening their infrastructure. So kung pwedeng tech, kung pwedeng pag-revisit ng mga processes or yung mga systems nila to help give better employee or even customer experience. But then kung makikita natin, saan papasok dyan yung wave of skilling those people when it comes to those touch points? Kasi hindi lang naman infrastructure yung kailangan tutukan when we talk about transformation. But then, since maraming efforts ang binigay nitong dalawang industriya, mataas yung capability to react to change because they were able to instill those critical pillars earlier on. But then, when it comes to Future Change Index, hindi pa nagtatapos ang challenges for these two industries. It's rated moderate to high, accordingly, no, financial and insurance. So maraming mga mag-evolve pa in terms of the kinds of products that will need to address the needs of the market. It would also mean how do we bring to market our products and services. And also, of course, yung touch points or how do our interactions look like with our end user. Back to the old ways ba? or may mga ibang pamamaraan so that we can capture a greater majority of our target market. So that's why hindi pa yan bababa. And wala yatang masyadong mataas in terms of capability ng leaders when it comes to managing change. May mga kakulangan in terms of skills na kailangan pang mai-address so that the ability of these companies under these industries are going to be higher when it comes to their hit rate for success. So hopefully makatulong to sa atin. Kasi parang kumbaga sa teleserye, no? Hindi pa pala tapos. Meron pang abangan ng susunod na kabanata when it comes to change.
Totoo yan. Ida, no, syempre kailangan mag-zero in ako dun, sabi mo nga kanina, closest to our heart, which is the insurance industry. And I noticed, no, at you mentioned earlier na talagang meron siyang very high, no, capability to react to change. What did the study observe that led them to this conclusion, Ida? And then my second question is, sabi mo nga yung future change index ay mataas din, no, para sa insurance. Ano yung mga parang punta naman tayo sa advantages. Anong advantages does this offer when it comes to opportunities naman, no, para sa insurance sector?
Syempre may tinatawag tayo dyan na when we do listen to our customers and we do know what they need, then yun yung magiging basis natin in terms of the improvements or the innovations that we will have to do, whether it's product, service, infrastructure, touch points. And earlier on, before the pandemic, I've heard a lot of those pressing issues and concerns from key stakeholders na they are trying to address or even attend to. Hence, yun yung mga naging basis for the transformation initiatives. And the mere fact that hindi lang ang stakeholders but the rest of the organization are very much vested and committed to making those happen, then it's just a matter of time on how the insurance industry will be able to future-proof their business when it comes to meeting the success targets. So, yun yung maganda. Yun nga lang, syempre, yung Future Change Index, dahil hindi natin alam kung anong klaseng mga policies, anong klaseng mga coverage yung kailangan nating i-offer given marami dyan connected to the lives of people, which is still continuously evolving. Then, kailangan lang we keep our ears on the ground and consistently hear from our market so that alam natin kung anong pwedeng maibigay sa kanila. When we talk about keeping our ears on the ground, we have to make sure that we expand our network and we hear from beyond those that we are accustomed to. Kaya nga sabi nila, the more network we are, the more people we know, the bigger we are able to appreciate what's happening in terms of the forces that are affecting our product and the way we are supposed to behave. So feedback, I think, is very fundamental. And so far, there have been mechanisms, I know, in the insurance industry that they've been doing so that feedback can be received quickly and also more accurately. So hindi lang siya the manual way or the more personal way. Meron din tayong digital option. So I think the balance of both the traditional and also the virtual approaches have been working for the insurance industry. Ang tanong na lang dyan is, are we actually leveraging on all those modalities? Kasi alam natin na may mga kanya-kanya tayong preferences, di ba? May mga averse to digital or tech. So ibig sabihin, mas limitado din yung pamamaraan natin of getting to know our market or even reaching our market sa pwede natin i-offer.
Yeah, because I know in the insurance industry now, even modality, no, na ginagamit nila sa selling, no, it's now online. They are allowed remote selling na, but at the same time, meron pa rin talagang gusto yung face-to-face no? Even customers, kahit na they can do transactions already online, would still want to go to the office no, and transact to an actual personnel.
Right.
No? So
Right.
yun talaga yung tama ka, no? Yun ang nakikita natin na balance, no, na kailangan pa rin i-manage ng mga leaders. I mean, this one is really very good because if I am a member of the industry, number one, siguro happy ako na yung industry ko pala has a very high capability talaga to react to change, no? Na
Yes.
kahit hindi pa muna ako, but I know that my industry, no, merong ganung kakayanan, no. And at the same time, yun nga, yung future change index naman, alam ko na talagang ang rami pang opportunities na manganganak, no, doon sa industry ko. So if I want to be positive about it, 'di ba? Ang dami pang prospects, no, na nag-iintay sa akin as a member of the industry.
Yes, you're right, Jay. Actually, Jay, sa totoo lang, no, hindi nga, maganda yung sinabi ninyo na if we choose to be positive, I think at the end of the day, if we take these as opportunities for us to improve and be better, then that would be a good disposition. Pero karamihan kasi ng mga tao, pagka narinig ang change or uncertainty, normally fear ang nangingibabaw. So, paano natin ma-ensure na mas mabawasan yung fear and mas maging magkaroon ng courage or hope ang mga tao that there's something better in store wherever we are.
Either yung the future change index, well, it will present a lot of opportunities, will also require a lot from those managing these companies, no? Which brings us to the third column. Now we will see that for the insurance industry, less than 50% of industry leaders seem to be effective in managing change, no?
Yes.
So parang there is some sort of at the moment, disconnect. There's a requirement to be able to actually manage the change. Industry-wide, mukhang kaya. Pero pag zero-in mo dun sa leadership core, parang there needs to be some leveling up that has to happen.
Definitely, Sir Ivy. Kasi when we talk about managing change, it's not just being able to define the goals and objectives ng kumpanya sa respective teams natin. But imagine kung meron tayong, let's say, stretched goals na tinatawag. Paano natin make sure that we can actually rally everyone in the organization towards that goal? So yung engagement, yung pep talk sa mga tao, keeping them engaged and motivated would be very challenging, lalo na iba-iba ang setup natin with a hybrid workforce. Hindi lahat ng tao nakikita natin face-to-face. And paano pa kung tapatan tayo ng mga fears natin with technology or limitations when it comes to connectivity, na admittedly, hindi naman tayo ganun ka fortunate here in the Philippines to have really strong bandwidth connections, but we make do with what we can. So with that, and also how can we make sure that everyone is productive, even if you don't see them on a regular basis? So those things, even how we are able to keep our partnerships with, let's say, our contractors, our suppliers, even those who are not full-time employees, how do we make sure that the vision is clear to them? Ano yung kind of relationship that we entail or we need of them para matulungan tayo, and it's a win-win collaboration. Hindi yung tipong at the disposal lang sila whenever we need them. So that unified vision and how it's communicated would be very crucial in managing those changes. Hindi lang siya managing changes. Influencing would be key. How do you build partnerships? Those are really fundamental in managing change.
Thank you. In the past, ang parati nating na rinig with respect to change is yung phrase na the only constant is change. No? Today, as you now see, it has taken a new form. The only certainty is uncertainty. No?
Yes.
So leaders of today, like those of the past, have to wrestle with change every day. As we start a new year and filled with opportunities and of course change, What must leaders do to ensure they and their teams are positioned well and can start strong?
Uh, this is very close to my heart. Kasi sa dalawang, actually before nagsimula ang pandemya, take on ko lang ng leadership role. So your question is actually very personal to me, and I would say na strengthening resilience is really important and number one of anyone. Hindi lang siya sa leaders, but of any person who's working or not, which can be painful for some and likely a test of boundaries for most. Quite often, it serves as a litmus test, no, on who stays and who goes, which drives individuals to discern if their career plus personal goals are still aligned with that of the company that they're connected with. Kaya nga, I think in the recent 2 years, marami tayong nabalitaan na nagkaroon ng biglang career shift. Merong lumipat sa hindi within the same industry, ibang klaseng role. So kung tinitingnan natin na ang competitor natin pagdating sa talent is just confined to our industry, hindi na ganon. Everyone can be a competitor to our talent and can be a competitor to our business. In our 2021 Global Leadership Forecast, where I lifted the data point that I shared with you earlier, HR and leaders rated skills related to rapid change as their top priorities. We also studied which leadership skills most accounted for how prepared organizations were to succeed across the broadest range of business challenges. And I think na subukan yan over the recent pandemic. So, limang bagay ito eh. Una sa lahat would be leading virtual teams. How can we make sure diba na nung hindi makapasok sa opisina ang mga tao, hindi makalabas, nakakulong sa bahay, how do we now remain connected with our team, with our customers, with our partners? Number 2 is coaching and delegation. Kung noon, in the normal environment, hirap na nga tayo mag-coach eh. Kasi we do more telling, giving instructions than actually hearing people out and assigning specific tasks and accountabilities dependent on the person's skills, aspirations, and even motivations. So, pag titingnan natin yan sa virtual environment or hybrid workplace, nag-evolve din the way we are supposed to coach and delegate.
Yeah.
And ang isa sa I'm sure narinig nyo ng madalas is empathy or EQ, na talagang test of true resiliency yan. Kasi walang true test of character kung hindi tayo magdaan sa extreme challenges in our life. And the last two would be digital acumen, which you all know why, because the more attuned we are to what's happening in terms of technology, the better we are in terms of knowing what lies ahead and how we are able to connect. And building partnerships, which I think sa insurance is number 1. How do we make sure that we have the right channels with the right partnerships in place? So sa mga sinabi ko, most glaringly, fewer than 1 in 5 leaders rated themselves effective in leading virtual teams, which has quickly become essential. Alam naman natin yon. Rounding out the top priorities leaders needed to build their skills in building a strategic vision and influencing others to build toward one unified future. So I'm just re-emphasizing yung pinag-usapan natin kanina why the capability of leaders in managing change is not that high. So yun, 2 other core skills I'd like to throw in would be, of course, yung coaching and delegation and empathy, which are very foundational, na kailangan more and more as we engage in difficult conversations. Kasi nga wala tayong masyadong clarity with a lot of uncertainty. And how do we make sure that they're consistently engaged? Lalo na kung magta-transform tayo in whichever way we need to. So,
I just want to highlight what you've mentioned in the first segment, that especially for agency leaders recruiting in the industry, that their competition is not only within the industry. So if they are going to recruit people, they must take into account what other industries are doing, whether in terms of relationships, digital, and the like, no, to get the right talent into the team. Thank you, Ida.
Yeah. Siguro gusto ko lang sundan, Ida, yung sinabi mo doon sa mga skills, no, na kailangan ng mga leaders, yung coaching and delegation. Because in season 2, we were able to interview a number of mga young leaders, no. At siguro, no, Mr. Ivy, you will agree na very consistent sa kanila na lumalabas na talagang ang style of leadership nila nagbago during this pandemic. Talagang they were talking about coaching. Coaching na yung ginagamit nila. In fact, sabi ko, so yun na pala ang bagong style ngayon talaga ng leadership, no? Hindi na talaga pwede yung tell lang, no? It should really be coaching, no? Making sure that you just guide people, no, to make decisions, no, them by themselves, no, and making them realize. So talagang yung sinasabi mo, yun talaga yung na-experience, no? Na-experience talaga, in sync yung what's in the data and what's really happening in the field. Ida, mapunta naman tayo sa side ng customers. What has changed? No, that from the side of the customers that leaders must be aware and be prepared to address?
Well, the high likelihood for leaders to consistently struggle with change in responding to market demands is very apparent, perhaps even sa experiences nating lahat, no? In the recent Global Leadership Forecast that we've been referring to, only 29% of leaders say that they feel prepared to understand and act on changing customer demands or needs and perspectives, from product types to channels and even interactions. And additionally, just 1 in 4 feel prepared to innovate, to continuously improve products and services, and to anticipate and react to the nature and speed of change, as well as responding to a new competitive environment their organization is facing. And even fewer, just 23%, said that they feel they can act decisively without a clear direction and certainty. So ito yung mga hinaharap natin that we will need to acclimatize and embrace as part of our day-to-day, affecting the preferences, demands, and needs of our customers. I wouldn't really be able to say what exactly those are kasi nga it's ever-changing, but being able to consistently hear feedback from those who are the recipients of our service, then those would be the best testimony on how we can evolve our business offerings. And if there's anything I have personally experienced as well, is that in our relationships, no, sa pakikitungo natin sa mga customers natin, hindi po pwede or hindi maaaring produkto lang or service ang ihaharap natin sa kanila. Relationship now, more than ever, is very key. I know na maraming mga relationship-driven businesses. And ngayon, wala nang exception yun. Halos lahat will be invested in the level of relationship that they have. And yan din yung magiging assurance on the returns and the repeat business that we can actually bring. And yung authenticity that we started off, I think the authenticity of the person that people are interacting with or customers are interacting with will be a test of whether your product will be bought or not. Kasi yung outcomes niyan in terms of effective ba yan sa naging sa pangangailangan nila sa buhay, nakatulong ba sa kanila, were you able to follow through doon sa commitment mo, then yun yung magiging basis for that customer to say that I will stay with you, I'm happy, I'm satisfied, and there's no reason for me to look for another alternative.
So in short, even if you are already on the digital platform, it doesn't excuse one, no, from not really nurturing, no, that relationship with our customers, because as you were saying, at the end of the day, it's still a relationship ang foundation, no, sa ating with our dealing, no, with our customers, whether face to face or nasa digital platform yan, no? And it's somehow challenging, no, Ida, kasi nga dahil kapag nasa nasa iPad ka, nasa computer ka lang nakikipag-usap, somehow yung yung physical relationship medyo nawawala. So it's really a challenge. Which leads me to my next question. Ano naman yung mga pitfalls or traps that leaders should anticipate or avoid so that they can continue to effectively manage their teams in 2022?
Actually, nakakatuwa tong tanong na to, Jay, kasi pwede kong i-associate yan sa mga naging experiences natin sa buhay, no? Yung mga hindi get over sa kasanayan nila, hindi maka-move on. Leaders who continue business as usual will be at greater risk, actually. Meanwhile, kung sino yung mga merong growth mindset and ability to embrace uncertainty while continuously developing new skills rapidly will be a hallmark of great leadership in the years ahead. So, babalikan ko lang dyan is kung ano yung nakasanayan natin noon that may have helped us in terms of becoming successful. If we don't take into account the changes in the environment that we should also recalibrate ourselves on, then sayang yung pagbubulan natin ng panahon. The signs are very clear sa 2022 that it's going to be a talent war. Employees will have little tolerance for bad bosses, unsupportive policies, and jobs that don't fit their career goals. So kung noon, mga tabu itong mga topics na to, ngayon hindi. It was actually brought out in the open because of the pandemic. As a result, companies will have, and also its leaders, of course, they'll have to step up on their game big time. As in, hindi pwedeng chillax lang tayo in terms of how we are going to approach the situation. Companies and leaders will need to transform their leadership in a major way to ensure they have an inclusive culture that leaves room for being human at work. They'll need to create more flexible, worker-centric policies, and they will also need to make sure they get it right when they hire people for open roles. So ito yung siguro tatlong makakalagang bagay that I would say leaders would need to have on top of their minds so that they can start a better year in 2022.
So talagang leaders must evolve, no? Hindi talaga pwedeng stagnant ka and stay where you are. Sabi nga nila, what brought you here will not necessarily bring you to the next level, no? So
Yes.
talaga dapat stay ahead of the curve sila. So thanks for that, no, Ida.
Na-surprise lang ako, Ida, dun sa statistics na ni-share mo about customers, no? Because for many, many years, if not decades, companies have been talking about listening to the customer, excellent service, and anything about customer. And yet, apparently based on these numbers, and it's still a long way to go to really get what the customers want. No? In any case, I also just want to emphasize 2 points that you've mentioned, yung relationship driven and then authenticity. No? I'm just happy to note that these two elements are very much at the priority of the industry because they cannot sell if they are not authentic, and they cannot sell and offer their products if there is no relationship. No? So glad to know about that. Now, you've mentioned about the skills that a leader must have today in order to meet the challenges. On the other hand, because of the speed by which change happened, question is, what other vital skills must leaders begin to develop now so that whatever comes ahead, they're somehow prepared to manage the unexpected?
Sige, babalik ulit ako, mag-share ako ng data sa ating lahat. Kasi alam ko naman na since pinag-usapan natin kanina na iba't ibang style ng mga tao in terms of learning. So para sa mga visual people, share natin.
Gustuhan niya ng mga leaders natin, Ida.
Ako, gustong-gusto ko rin to. And so far, sa lahat ng mga nakausap kong leaders, whether HR or line leaders across industries, this actually help them revisit kung ano yung mga, sabihin na lang natin, naging priorities nila over the pandemic, before the pandemic, and even what they have to be mindful of moving forward to 2022 onwards. And this actually is a quadrant that you see where the left axis is urgency to develop within 3 years, and then the Y, and then the X is current skills shortage. And sa mga nakaraang buwan, siguro close to 2 years, most of the companies focused on yung top left na nakikita natin, the need continued development. So most organizations actually poured in interventions, even close guidance on these 4 skills that you see on screen. And nabanggit ko rin, Jay, kanina na ito rin yung kadalasang narinig natin sa mga previous episodes natin. Kasi ito nga ang nakatulong sa karamihan ng mga leaders natin to actually survive and to some even thrive over the recent experience that we had. For those ones who are a little bit more advanced and hindi lang sila business as usual, hindi firefighting or reactive to the changes, these organizations and leaders have already started way back in terms of investing on the top right, yung mga nasa orange box natin. Ito yung mga skills na kinakailangan so that we can future-proof our companies and even our leadership capability to address to the demands of the business that we're intending to support. So makikita natin dyan yung managing change is a constant and hindi to there's really no way for us to say na we're already experts in managing change kasi we're also dependent on what's happening in the environment, di ba? Same with digital acumen. So kung anong galaw ng mundo, then we just have to make sure that we are not averse to those changes and we're keeping an open mind in this position. In terms of what I mentioned earlier, the building the next gen leaders, that's where the building talent comes in. And if we only focus on the now and rely on the talents that we have posted in critical positions and not dig deeper or look deeper in the organization and prepare them now, not later, then for all we know, pag dumating yung next wave of challenge that we're not familiar with, then maagnas tayo. We won't have those second line of defense, third line of defense, fourth line of defense. So we will only be able to do that if leaders actually take this seriously. And hindi to task ng HR. Leaders talaga.
Yeah.
And last but not the least, if we combine strategic thinking and influencing, when the goal is clear, we're not only looking at our roles or our accountabilities microscopically, but we do know na ang individual contribution natin is directly impacting the end goal. And how do we now make sure that we collaborate with people, we bring in the necessary support to make that happen? Hindi natin kayang gawin lahat. So para sa mga type A personality na feeling nating ano ba, conquer natin ang mundo. Oo. Ako lang to. Hindi na maaari ang ganon. So the more we're connected, the more we actually bring in the necessary resources and support that can help us, the faster we can get things done. And last but not least, yung sa bottom right, ito yung mga often neglected or overlooked skills na kailangan pagtuunan ng pansin. We do hear a good number of companies who do invest in this, pero masasabi kong on the surface, hindi pa ganon kalalim, and may takot pang nararamdaman because of, let's say, cultural considerations, politics, and even siguro limitations when it comes to resources. So the earlier we get to integrate the orange and the bottom right items, I think the easier the lives of people will be for the future.
Ay nako, Ida, tapos na naman ang oras natin sa bilis. Nakatuloy siya sabi ni Jay na kanina parang but you made it very clear yung all the critical skills that leaders must have today, they must develop and must have for the future, no? So klaro na yon. Maraming salamat. But my final question to you naman is, okay, so but how do they actually do that? Kailangan nilang gawin para unti-unti magawa nila itong napakaraming requirements to become an effective leader.
Ang hirap maging leader.
Actually, hindi ko alam kung paano ko sasagutin yung tanong ni Ivy ng isang simpleng statement eh. Kasi alam naman natin na samut-sari yung mga kinakailangan nating paghandaan. Siguro pwede ko siyang i-summarize into 3. Maaari ba? Na tatlong items. Sige. I would put siguro number 1 would be keeping and hiring talents needed to bring future success by making sure that we instill a sense of purpose, upskilling and capabilities needed for recovery after employees depart kasi hindi naman natin may iwasang may aalis. And most importantly, employee well-being must be front and center. So yan yung unang bucket ko ng kailangan ng leaders. And I don't want to neglect a close second in terms of importance is surfacing high potential talents in a hybrid workplace can be more difficult because this isn't simply meeting to performance expectations anymore eh. Kasi nagiging muddled yung definition ng performance and potential. This can be done through identifying and clearly defining future role requirements and not just the current requirements of the job, casting a wider net earlier, and developing virtual capability in building talent. Kasi nga, kung hindi natin gawin to, maaagnas yung leadership pipeline natin, which is going to be a threat to the company. And we're not in the companies we're connected with forever. So the sooner we do that, the more people will also find the reason to stay. And last but not the least, focusing on flexibility and opportunity for growth, having a culture of inclusion and deliberate development practices or experiences is very important. So siguro kung sisimplihan ko yung tatlo, no, ang mga pinapasok sa kumpanya, ang hindi na tinitingnan lang sa kakayanan, but how are their personal values closely connected with the organizational values. So kung pangalawa dyan is, hindi tayo dapat limitado lang sa mga nakapwesto or nakaposisyon. There always has to be efforts to disperse accountabilities and using those as opportunities to check out capabilities for future leaders or potential talents. And of course, hindi naman maaaring ilalagay mo lang sink and swim. Hindi na yan practice ngayon. Kailangan merong kaagipat na suporta. And that can be development in different forms. So there. I hope that's simple enough. Ang daming pwedeng pag-usapan.
Again, I guess, it all centers in the ability and the commitment to harness the potential of the people, no, in the organization. Yes. So again, ubos na oras natin. Bilis, no?
Sa'yo eh, ang bilis, Ida, no?
Oo nga, tama kayo, Jay. Akala ko pa naman din, ang 40 minutes, parang isang taon.
Dumaan lang siya ng napakabilis, no? So, thanks, Ida. A lot of wonderful and helpful insights and ideas to digest. No, thank you very much for sharing all those information which are all useful for our leaders, especially that we are starting a brand new year. Busog na busog, siksik na siksik, liglig na liglig kami ngayong gabi. No? Our leaders have a lot of takeaways to build on and act on as they gear up for the opportunities as well as the challenges of 2022. Sabi mo nga, the complexity of being a leader has drastically changed, no? But napakaganda naman kasi katulad ng DDI, no, you are there to provide us, no, to provide our leaders yung mga tips, no, at mga strategies by which, no, they can still overcome and adjust, no, and adapt to this new type of leadership. It is also great to hear and very comforting that the insurance industry sector has remained and continues to be resilient, no? Because as you said, resiliency is very, very important and a key factor in today's normal, no? And we see that the insurance is really in a growth trajectory. Okay, talagang nasa growth path siya. In sync, sabi ko nga kanina, what is shown in the data and the growth that is being experienced in the industry in general. So, hindi lang siya feeling, hindi lang sa observation, talagang nangyayari siya actual at backed up ng inyong data, no, yung inyong research, no. And I should say that this should really strongly encourage our leaders, give them the confidence to make bold plans and act with urgency this 2022. So Ida, maraming salamat ulit sa napaka very fruitful na discussion at very productive na sharing natin tonight.
Anytime.
Just going through what we've discussed now, sometimes you wonder, what is it in leadership with all of the demands and all of the unknowns to become an effective leader? What is it in leadership that a lot of people want to be a leader? And then again, on the same note, with all of the challenges and all of the unknowns, a leader's purpose and why to be a leader must really be very strong for him to do all that is expected of him. Anyway, again, we want to thank you, Ida, for joining us in our first episode of Season 3. Dami kaming baon for our next episodes. And surely our industry leaders have been through so many challenges and changes in the past. And as a few said, those who survived and thrive are the ones who were able to adapt, step up, and innovate. 2020 and 2021 were most challenging in the industry, and yet the industry last year, still without official figures, but we know it grew double digit, and we also know that a good number of leaders posted double digit growth. 2022 seems to offer better opportunities, so more leaders and advisors should see themselves improving and growing this new year.
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, that's it for our Buena Mano episode for Season 3 with our very special guest, Miss Ida Amigo. Sa apelyido mo pa lang, Ida, talagang friend na friend ka namin, no? At very friendly, useful talaga. User-friendly, lahat yung iyong mga information na shinare mo sa amin. So thanks again, Ida, and thanks again our dear leaders for joining us tonight. We look forward to spending more Thursday evenings with you and of course with our special guest. For those of you who missed the episode tonight, you can watch it on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. By the way, Mr. Ivy, I'd like to remind again our dear leaders that starting next Monday, that's January 10, we will be showing every Monday, 8 p.m., the videos of our training heads from the different life insurance companies. Magbibigay sila ng mga power dose as they share their insights and ideas on certain training and people development topics. Sabi nga ni Ida kanina, talagang talent development is going to be very critical. So talagang i-feature natin yung ating mga training heads. So I hope leaders, you watch out for that. That's going to be every Monday, 8 p.m. So lalabas po sila ng mga short videos. I know na marami kayong nuggets of ideas na matututunan at maa-apply sa inyong trabaho as leaders. So Mr. IB, while we hear the general outlook for leaders from Ida tonight, next week our guests will somehow put into context itong mga pinag-usapan natin ngayon, context naman ng insurance agency leadership. So talagang medyo ibubullseye na nila to sa ating mga agency leaders.
Yes, Jay, because next week we will have the new president of Gamma Philippines, si Miss Magna Chua. She will be joined by Pauline Ushi, first vice president, and Natalie Ong, board secretary. Together, they will share with us the 2022 plans and programs of Gamma and how they plan to support the memberships. So again, please join us next week. So that will be next Thursday, January 13, 8 p.m. here in Leaders in Action. Ida
Real leaders.
Real stories.
and Real Talk.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Ida.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Ida. Thanks,
Happy New
everyone.
Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.